Okay. Always good to check.
I got to. All right, everybody, welcome to episode 121 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL, and I am with the co-host with the most, Drew at DR_PRA. Drew, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. I am so far dodging all the sickness going through the house, and I'm here tonight. And we have a fantastic guest with us.
You and me both dodging the sickness, and you are absolutely right about that guest. We have Linda at Lindelian. We'll say Linda Lyons. I never saw it, but hey, listen, it's there. How you doing, Linda?
I'm doing well. I think you guys might be giving a little bit too much credit to what I'm about to bring to the floor this evening, but I mean, I'm not going to turn down a compliment, so I'll take it.
You know what? I am gonna argue that because we had you on once before. It was an amazing show. It gave me bragging rights over
Yeah.
a good friend, Bill. I still get to bring that up every once in a while whenever I talk to him. I was like, remember that time you liked Trey Sermon? Yeah, that dude stinks out loud. So yeah, so no, you're gonna bring it. I know you are because anything that you do, you bring it. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. So let's hit this news. My goodness, we thought last week was kind of crazy. This week said hold my beer. So I'm just gonna hit the highlights and then we can talk about whatever we feel like. Tom Brady, he decided that after 40 days of staying at home with his kids, getting hit by 300-pound linemen was a better way to be. So he's back. He rejoined the Tampa, and he is ready to roll avocado ice cream and all. He's ready. He's gonna play. I was almost gonna say one more year, but let's face it, he's probably playing till he's 55. So he'll
Mhm.
sign a 10-year contract next year with the Bucks, and that's how he'll close out his career. What else did we have? Kirk Cousins. Boy, people want to clown on Kirk Cousins, but that dude is an ATM. He just prints money, and I, I, I don't hate his game at all. Do what you do, Kirk Cousins. Uh, Big money Mitch Trubisky going to Pittsburgh. Some people are calling it Mitchburg now. Geez, this is I'm telling you, this week was crazy. The Jags, I think, signed every free agent for way more money than any of them were worth. Is there anything else exciting? Julio got cut. That was kind of crazy. That just happened today. Michael Gallup is staying in Dallas. Drew, how do you feel about this JD McKissick thing? He was a Bill for about 32 seconds, and then he said, I don't know, the weather was too cold. I don't know what his deal was, but he turned tail and went back to Washington. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, he didn't realize, Buffalo still plays outside, I guess, but felt really good for the couple teams that had Singletary for about 2 days, and then now it's opened us back up to getting another decent back there. So yeah, hopefully Singletary dodges that. I've got him in a few spots, and I hope he does well. I like the guy.
So, are you telling me that the Bills will take another third round running back and see what happens there?
I think that's very possible. Third, fourth round, somewhere back there. Throw him in the mix. We'll see. I mean, we took a couple of old vets last year. Had whatever's left of Matt Breida there. So
Hey, Matt Breida had a couple games. He was all right for like 2 or 3 games. So let's see what else we got. Devonte Adams says he's not going to play on the tag. Don't blame him. Green Bay will pay their stars once they get out of line a little bit. Look at Rodgers twice. So I mean, he's doing the smart thing and saying he ain't gonna play on the tag. James Conner and Zach Ertz staying with the Cardinals. That's very interesting. And finally, Young Hui Koo, just for you, Linda, hitting that 5 years, $24.25 million extension, and the only kicker in the league making more, Justin Tucker. So, Linda, why don't you start us off? Talk about whatever you want as it concerns this free agency madness.
It's just been like, I don't know. I think we become so removed from the last offseason every offseason because of how fast football season goes. But also, when you think about it, you're like, God, week one was forever. It feels like what I'm trying to say is it feels like Calvin Ridley got in trouble months ago. I'm so tired. I don't remember what has happened earlier in one of my group chats. And like, we weren't talking about football, we were talking about something completely unrelated. And somebody commented in it that Mostert was going to Miami. And I'm like, I just kind of ignored. I'm like, yeah, Miles Gaskin was already there. Like I read Mostert and in my mind, I was like, Miles Gaskin. So, and then I just moved on. It took me a full 5 minutes to process the information I had received. And it's just because it's coming in at such a rapid pace.
Can I make a confession here? Did not even know Mostert made it to Miami until you just
It
said it.
just happened.
Okay, okay.
Oh, I broke news per
Breaking
me.
news on the fantasy timeline from our insider, Linda Lyons, coming at us with the breaking news. Move over, Adam Schefter. You got competition. Ian Rappaport, who? I don't know you, man. Is Linda
Yeah,
Lyons
I'm all
breaking
over it.
news? So, all right, I feel a little bit better then, just because
Yeah, it just
I
happened.
I did not know, and I thought that was something that happened a while ago, and I just was uninformed. So, man, that's going to be a an interesting backfield to say the least. Chase Edmonds, and Raheem Mostert, the artist Gaskin. So, yeah, it's going to be that's going to be fun. Drew, what about you, man? In this hodgepodge of news that we have interests you the most?
Well, there's a lot going on here in Jacksonville. See, regarding our bet that we've got there, I feel okay right now. Feel
Oh,
okay.
okay.
We'll see what happens and who shakes out. Zay Jones, interesting. Somebody was mentioning earlier that I was either watching or listening to. DJ Chark. It seems like they kind of piecemealed his job out. He was supposed to be able to do a little bit of everything. Now they've got three guys that can do all the stuff that he's supposed to be able to do. So who knows what happens with him, but. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking here, spending all this money. Florida is an income state tax free state, so my assumption has always been maybe you don't have to pay quite as much to get people to go to Florida and play because you've got good weather, you got hot tubs in your box seats, and you don't have state income tax. So when you're making millions of dollars a year, that's not chump change. So weird to see them have to go the opposite direction to get any kind of talent to come there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in Jacksonville and how they turn it around or try to turn it around after last year.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel confident, but Trevor Lawrence is just a better quarterback. So, considering he had Urban Meyer as his head coach last year, that's a exponential upgrade. Yeah, see, Linda couldn't even do it. She couldn't even finish that drink without almost throwing it up, and I don't blame her. An exponential upgrade to Doug Peterson. And say what you want about Christian Kerr and Zay Jones and Evan Ingram, up Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, and DJ Chark. It being just is. So better coaches, slightly better weapons. They still got Dan Arnold doing his thing. Yeah, and he was the better quarterback last year with all those deficiencies. So I wish you good luck in the bet, Drew. Uh, yeah, and I guess I'll talk. There's so much to talk about. I mean, I think the biggest news is Brady coming back. No easy thing to do, but I mean, we were talking about like Trask and Blaine Gabbert as like potential starters on this team. Which, by the way, I don't care what anybody on the Twitter machine was saying. Nobody had like high hopes for either one of those guys as a fantasy player, so to speak. And then, then there was talk. Well, maybe they'll take, you know, Sam Howell if he drops, or Desmond Ritter, or something like that. And it's like, okay, that's cool too, but what's going on? So I think Tom Brady completely kind of changes for fantasy the fortunes of not only the quarterback position there, but Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. We're still waiting to hear what Leonard Fournette is going to do, but there's probably a lot better of a chance now of him re-signing with Tampa Bay than there was when he looked around and saw Kyle Trask and Blaine Gabbert as potential QB starters. I mean, it's kind of the reason why we're talking about Mitch Trubisky the way we are, just because like it was either going to be Dwayne Haskins or Mason Rudolph, and that was just like, ugh. So even Mitch Trubisky, we're like, oh, okay, like we're not calling him a top 10 QB, but he's definitely better than Mason Rudolph. So yeah, I think that changes a lot of fortunes with the Tom Brady news, not just obviously his own, but shout out to the dude who bought his last touchdown ball like 2 hours before Tom Brady came back.
Bro, punching air, bro. Like, I don't know. If you have that much money to like spend on a football, I maybe like my empathy might be a tad low, but like you got to be mad. But he probably has another 500,000 sitting around for like the next football. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying.
He does.
Also, Drew, I saw you sneeze, so bless you.
Thank you.
I didn't see nothing, but same.
Nice to know somebody cares.
It's not me. Let's face it. So yeah, it's funny. Rich people usually stay rich because they know how to invest their money. And that dude was probably like, I pay $500,000 now. I sell it for like $2 million, like 10, 15 years down the road. Tom Brady's old and gray. And I forgot who it was. Someone said that ball is probably worth $50,000 now. So he lost 10x on that deal, which is I'm no mathematician, but that's not good. That's not the good way to do business.
Suboptimal, I think is
yes, exactly. Drew with the big word, suboptimal. So we made it through the news. We could have spent 2 hours just talking about it if we really wanted to, but this is where we have the most fun. What we saw on the timeline, what's going on. I asked people for questions. We got a couple, and the first one here is from John Bauer at the Bauer Club. Great friend of the show, great personal friend of Dynasty Theory and a whole bunch of other stuff. Who was Linda's favorite co-host that she's had the privilege of working with? And Linda is so humble. So Linda, for 1 second, if her and I ever start a podcast, it would be me, John. But since we haven't done that yet, Linda, are you pleading the fifth on this one, or are you giving us a answer?
That's not fair because I think in terms of co-hosts, it's pretty much those three boys, Troy and Mitch and John, and I love them all for different reasons. I think we can go ahead and like Troy, that's like I'm good. I spend enough time talking to him on the daily that like he'll be all right if I nix him from the list. But John, God love John and Mitch, because when you guys invited me to the show for the first time, they had just been on it or had been on it recently. Yep. And they were like, it's a blast. I listened to their episode. It was great. I'm like, well, then, yeah, I'm absolutely going to do this. So shout out to them. But they like gave me my first star. I'm not going to pick. That's like a mom picking their favorite kid. I'm not going to pick, but I'm certainly not going to say it out loud.
There is one then. There is one.
We're going to get the scoop off the record once we sign off, and then never tell anybody, because that's the type of people we are. But now that I know the backstory, I appreciate the kind words from all the fellas. They're a blast. I'm actually one of the people on my very long list of off-season guests to grab is those guys, because I'm kind of the same thing. I love them all for different reasons, and JB and I are in a league together, and I love getting his trade offers because they usually will make me chuckle, and I'll be like, JB, I love you, but I can't do this to myself. I can't do this to myself. So Shout out to JB though. I love him and those guys. I'm
Mhm.
hoping to get them on the show real soon. We actually did their draft podcast last year, and that was a ton of fun because when we were on Dynasty Theory, we were talking about players, and I brought up the fact that I did not like James Robinson because help was coming. Now, obviously, this was last year before the draft, so obviously a lot of things have happened since then. But I said help is coming, and I can't believe he's going to keep up the just sheer numbers that he had. Well, sure enough, I was on the hour that Jacksonville picked Travis Etienne. And those guys are head in the hands, and I'm just sitting there. I said, I told you guys, I don't know why you're sad right now. I think they thought they dodged the bullet in free agency. And I was like, I told you. Now,
They
obviously, Travis Etienne gets hurt, and then James Robinson just keeps doing what he does until he unfortunately gets hurt. But
Hey, small victories. That's what fantasy football is about. If I put the right, I don't have another option guy in, like 2 years ago, I had to play Brian Hill in like a stupid deep fantasy league,
mhm.
and he scored a touchdown, and I was like, I'm the smartest person. Like, I didn't even win that week, but I was like, Brian Hill
Yup.
scored a touchdown. I made the right decision. But I also did that draft show, and I just have to say that I think I scared Coach Dan that night because it was my last of like 6 or 7 shows that I had done. And they were my last one, and it was like 11, and I was hammered. I like vaguely remember the entire experience, but I know I terrified Dan, and that's my bad. That's on
that,
me.
that's awesome. That's my fellow brother in the Cowboy Army there, Dan Lamagna.
Mm.
So sad that he was scared, but I did watch that, and it was pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty damn good. So don't feel bad about it at all. But now that we got that out of the way, we can hit up some real questions. This first one here is from Family Football and Wrestling at Dynasty 316. Love all those things. All right, so we talked about him earlier, Devontae Adams. What's his trade value? And this he says Devontae Adams trade value. He wants to know. So he has a poll here, and I don't really want to get into the poll. I want to get into what you guys think about Devontae Adams right now. He's threatening to sit out if he doesn't get paid real money and not just whatever he's going to make on the tag. Are you trying to buy him on the fear that he might not play for a little bit? Or is it one of those things where he's old and we don't like old people in Dynasty, even though old is like 10 years younger than I am? So it feels weird to say old, but that's what the people say, old. What do you guys think? Drew, why don't you start us off? How do you feel about Devontae Adams? Are you trying to get him? And if you are trying to get him, what are you trying to pay for him?
I think he is generally overpriced. So I am typically not, unless I've just somehow, I'm not smart enough to work my way into like 3 or 4 firsts multiple years in a row kind of a place and contending at the same time. But if you happen to be one of those folks that's really genuinely good at this thing that we talk about, and you've got 2 or 3 firsts this year, 2 or 3 next year, then I think we say it a lot. If that's what's going to help you win and put you over the top, it's worth it, right? So go and if it takes a mid first this year and a random 23 first to get them on your team, go for it. I am not in that position in general, but if I were, if I were the guy that had 500,000 sitting around for one ball, yeah, you know what, I might pay 500,000 for a second ball. But that's where I am. I think he's generally overpriced for where my teams are. If I could have gotten him in a startup, maybe he dropped a little bit lower, or depending on what my draft strategy was, he fit better. Then that would probably be the main way that I'd get him. But trading for him at this point is probably going to be pretty limited for me if I'm trying to get him. For the teams that I have him, I'm holding over everybody's head the amount of production he's had the last few years, and I think ultimately he will get paid, and he will be tied to Rodgers for the next couple of years at least. And you really can't put a price on that. So if I've got him, I'm probably not moving him. If I don't have him, I'm probably not getting him.
And the lesson I took from that, Drew, is that 2 balls are better than 1, which is always a good thing. So
Strong agree.
yeah. So Linda, what do you think? Are you trying to chase down some Devontae Adams? What do you think about this?
I don't think I don't think anybody is gonna trade him away on the belief that, like, he's not gonna play. They paid Aaron Rodgers, they're gonna pay Devontae Adams. I don't think that's a issue at all. Um, it's probably easiest to acquire him if you're doing a startup because he does tend to fall into a lower wide receiver 1 range where you feel okay grabbing him because you know his production's gonna meet or exceed that. The problem is his draft value and his trade value seem to differ. People want more because they think they can get more. And so, everybody always says like, "Oh, nobody's untouchable," but like when you value that production as much as a lot of people do, you don't want to grab it in a startup because he's not young, and so he falls. But when you're trading for him, people want like he's a 24-year-old wide receiver producing at the same level as like the Justin Jeffersons and Jamar Chase's level because he is, but there's value to be had when you're drafting, but he's not somebody I'm looking to go out and buy because people want more than I'm willing to give.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking if I have two firsts in this year's draft, I give them up for Devontae Adams. Now, I'm not saying that buys you Devontae Adams. I'm just saying like I'll throw it out there and see what somebody says. I'd even throw in like two Devontaes and a guy that maybe people are higher on than I personally am, like Gabe Davis, something like that. Like, here's two firsts and Gabe Davis, like have a ball. Like you can get Traylon Burks and something else and Gabe Davis and reset yourself. But yeah, I agree with what you said, Linda. You can get them a little bit later in the startup, but like once you start trying to trade for them, people are like, "I need four firsts," and it's like, "Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
cool. Like I need a brand new car, but damn it, I ain't getting one of those anytime soon." So you'll get four firsts when I get the brand new car. So we're gonna go like that. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm probably like two firsts, maybe two firsts, and a player that I am not high on. Like yeah, I don't. But if I had like Brandon Ayuk and somebody still believed in, the spirit of Brandon Ayuk, like here you can have him and, thoughts and prayers. But, you know, I mean, I think that's the most I would be willing to do because, you know, like you said, there's a big difference between where people are willing to draft him and then where like the actual trade value is. Because the second somebody drafts Devontae Adams, they could have went behind like seven other receivers. It's like, oh, it's Devontae Adams. He's the best receiver in the game. Need three first. It's like, okay, okay. I mean, why didn't you take him in front of these six other guys that went ahead of him if you loved them so much? But that's how I feel about that. So Dynasty 316. I hope that helps you out. I hope that gives you an idea of what maybe you should pay or what other people are going to be willing to pay for Devontae. So this next one here is from Jean-Paul Duku at JP Duku. Finished mid-table Superflex Dynasty PPR 12-team league. Got Russ and T-Law already. Is it doing or should I hold? Deshaun Watson or the 104, a 23 first and second. So this poll was pretty close. So, Linda, I'll let you start us off this round. Is it going to be Deshaun or is it going to be that package?
Man, I'm probably like the worst person to ask because you couldn't pay me to roster Deshaun Watson.
Right.
But I from a value standpoint, like the 104 is not bad. I think it kind of depends on team needs. Are you lacking in like a really strong wide receiver,
Mhm.
somebody that you can draft at the 104? Then you're probably taking that side because you have to, I believe, QB1 in and out of weeks
Right.
at the quarterback position. I think Russell Wilson's going to really thrive in Denver. And it's not just because I'm a Denver fan, maybe a little bit, but like not all the way. There are lots of weapons there. So I think he'll play really well. And like we've talked about, what T Law's been gifted this season. Now they paid for those gifts, but I think it's still an upgrade to what they had last season, even if it's a small upgrade, like a little step forward. So I'm probably taking the side where I can get somebody at 104. But again, I think it really depends on what your roster needs on that one.
All right, there you go, Drew. What do you think?
Well, I would definitely be looking to upgrade my QB2 on that team. So,
Yeah,
that's
maybe you can get Tua.
yeah, that's tough. I agree with Lynn. It depends on what you're looking for. Again, you're not filling out rosters right now, so again, we're looking for value. I think in general, once we get some information on Watson and where he lands, who his weapons are, what he's going to be facing this year, and how usable he'll be for fantasy, I think all of that will. I think there's very little downside. I don't think there are too many places he could go where it would get worse for his value. So, from a value standpoint, like Linda said, I think the value is there with Watson, a first and a second, or a 2 firsts, and then a random second next year for who is typically a top 5 or 6 QB, especially in Superflex. Um, I've seen plenty of people in leagues that I'm in that have rostered Watson for 6 months, just holding out until now, and then are starting to cash in for other managers who maybe don't mind as much. So if you can do that, go for it. Certainly nothing wrong with taking, 23 first. It's crazy what it would take now. You almost have to give up the 104 to get a 23 first based on some of the trades that are out there for value. So, you're basically giving up the same value as 2 early picks this year. So if you want to give up Treylon Burks and Kenneth Walker or Matt Corral or something like that, or whoever you think is going to be up there as the QB2, it's a tough decision. But yeah, I think value-wise, it's Watson, and then you can certainly probably move on from him in another 6 months pretty easily, especially once there's some tape of him throwing and getting into preseason and minicamp and stuff like that. So I'd probably lean the Watson side for the value there.
Yeah, I'm gonna come at this from a slightly different angle since unless news is broken in the last 30 seconds, Deshaun Watson is still technically a part of the Houston Texans franchise. Hold off on this. Wait till that trade gets announced. He's going to Atlanta. He's going to Carolina. Wherever he goes. And as soon as Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, whoever breaks that news, Linda, I'm sorry, the real insider, not none of these scrubs out here that are pretending to be Linda. When Linda breaks that news, I mean, Linda's probably going to be sitting next to the general manager of the team while they make that trade. So then pounce, go in your team chat. Hey, Watson, available, best offer, and then because I think you're going to get more than 2 firsts and a second once that news, because he's still technically a Texan. We know the Texans have a propensity of messing things up. So until we know he's out and he is really out for good, hold him. Don't do anything with him. If this is a trade you get now, worst case scenario, this is the trade you're going to get after Deshaun Watson is actually traded to another NFL team. So I would say just keep it out there, and then the second that Linda breaks that news, just boom, put it in your league chat. Hey, Deshaun Watson is available. Give me your best offer, and then see what comes up. Because I bet you there's at least one person in your league that is like, dude, Deshaun Watson. I remember what he was in 2020. He was 4,800 yards, 40 touchdowns. That team had Brandon Cooks and a bunch of scrubs, and he did all. If he goes to Carolina now, all of a sudden it's DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Oh my good, Christian McCaffrey. Oh, people are going to get excited, and when people get excited, they do really crazy things. So
what if he goes to Atlanta?
Kyle Pitts to the moon.
That's it. But that's it. That's the only option right now in Atlanta.
Well, apparently, and I know you know this, Linda, because you broke the news. The rumblings in the street are that he wants to bring Will Fuller to wherever he goes. So I know Will Fuller normally only plays 4 games a season, but maybe he's learned some techniques to hide what he was doing, and he can play a full 17 again.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Hey, listen, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. And then, apparently he's also been pitching these teams that he's been visiting that he would like to have Allen Robinson come along. So if you get a team that's Kyle Pitts, 4 games of Will Fuller and Allen Robinson, it looks a lot better than what they got right now. Olamide Zaccheaus and
I
some
think he's
dude
a
named.
free agent.
Okay, so not that dude. I heard some dude named
Frank
Hardy was
Darby is their wide receiver 1.
Darby. See, it's not even Hardy. This is how bad it is in Atlanta right now. They got a dude named Darby.
I'm going down on weekends for tryouts right now from Nashville.
Lyndon,
driving
I,
the 4 hours down.
Congratulations.
Lyndon, we already talked about this on the Twitter machine today. She's going out for linebacker. I'm going out for offensive line. They need help at those positions as well. So I think we have a pretty good shot of both being Atlanta Falcons. And, you know, if Deshaun Watson is there, I mean, hey, there's going to be stats. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be wins, but there's going to be stats.
Definitely.
So we got
Stop
that
it.
going. We go.
Stop it.
Again, I'm not saying. So, all right, Jean-Paul. So I hope.
We're all on the Watson side for the value at this point, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and actually, it looks like he would be the one getting Watson. So
Yeah.
I would, if someone has proposed this to you, do it now before they hear this, and then turn around, or Linda breaks the news that he's been traded, and then forget it. So we got the next one here from Brandon Blanco at MBF_CLO. Are you selling or holding Jalen Hurts? Now, if you know me, you know my feelings on Jalen Hurts. He cheat coded his way to a very good fantasy season. But there's always this like cloud hanging over his head. Like, is he the dude? Does Philly like him? And that just scares me. Like, they were 9-8 this season, I believe. They made it to the playoffs. Well, what if that flips? What if they go 8-9? And then everyone goes, well, they were 8-9. They had 3 first-round picks. They didn't do it. I mean, it just, that much uncertainty scares me. So I think he still has a lot of value. I think Jalen Hurts, he's like Lamar Jackson and what we think Trey Lance can be. It's just like these guys that can run a lot, get you a lot of points. Now, Lamar has a much better arm than Jalen Hurts does. But that uncertainty scares me. I would be selling. Again, this is another guy that I go in a league chat and I go, who wants Jalen Hurts? And I try to get a deal done because I know a lot of people do not feel, and didn't last year, feel the way I felt about Jalen. Can find a trade partner that's willing to give it up for give up a lot of assets to get him. But that would be my personal view on it. Drew, what do you think? Jalen Hurts, you buying, you selling?
I think it depends on what it took to get him on your team. I understand some people go purely value based, so which can be a trap sometimes, right? If you gave up a couple of firsts last year to get him, maybe he took you to the championship or something. But yeah, I think in general, if you can get a decent return for him. But there's a couple of teams this year that I've got him on that I've got a team that I ended up losing to Bill, his team last year in the final. And I'm hoping that Hurts and Burrow take me back to the promised land again this year. And I will take every win I can with him because I don't think I'll get the value back in somebody that I think is going to be a long-term quarterback. Even if I get, I don't even know if I can get a Tannehill plus a little bit back or something. I don't know if that does much better for me over the next 2 or 3 years. I'm not getting somebody that I like Stafford. Probably I'm going to have to give up Hurts plus to get there because of the uncertainty. So I'm fine holding because most teams that I have him on, it did not take much to get him. I drafted him in the second round of rookie drafts, or I got him as a backup. Maybe I packaged him with Carson Wentz in a team as I was making some moves a couple of years ago, and it didn't cost me much to get him on my team. So I'm fine holding him because most teams that have him can use him. If you have no need for him and you're trying to dump points, then ship him off, get whatever value you can, market the super flex out of him and run.
Now, before we throw it to Linda, I want to disagree with one thing. I don't think you give up Hurts plus at Stafford. I mean, I understand we're all, he won a Super Bowl and we're all high on Super Bowl fumes and all that. But the thing we've not we, but the community has said about Stafford is he's not really good. He's what is he, 33, which in quarterback years
Yeah, he'll
is
be
not that
34 by
old.
next season.
Okay, so 34. Oh my goodness, he's AARP. Let's get him signed up. But I still think that general consensus is still around in the community. It may not be as bad as it once was, but I think worst case scenario, you could do that. I think you could do Hurts for Stafford straight up. And honestly, I think the Hurts owner would ask for more with Stafford. It may not be a big more, but they would ask you for a little sweetener to get it done. So that's the one thing I will disagree with you on, but everything else I think is spot on. Linda,
Proposing a
bring us
trade
home.
right now.
Do I have him somewhere?
Yes.
No, I.
Oh, I was going to
the
say,
league
I
that
know
I have,
I don't
man,
have Jalen Hurts.
I'm finding that Stafford owner right now. We're going to see what happens here. I like the optimism, and I hope you're right, Josh.
I just think that the community overall still likes Jalen Hurts more than they like Matt Stafford, which, by the way, the community is completely wrong. But I think that's what the community feels right now. Go ahead, Linda, bring us home.
That's what I was going to say. I think, first of all, I have one share of Jalen Hurts, and it's in a one quarterback dynasty league. So it's not worth selling him because
Right.
you're not going to get. So I'll just ride him until he's not the starting quarterback anymore. I don't think I'm too far removed from that being a real possibility. I'm not high on Jalen Hurts. I was not high on Jalen Hurts last year. I know his ability on the field is going to score fantasy points. I think that's kind of where the disconnect between real football and fantasy football kind of happens, because when you watch an NFL game without watching, your team rack up points with him as quarterback, I don't think he's a very efficient NFL quarterback. However, fuck, I lost what I was going to say. God damn it. Oh, I got it. I'm back. So, when people always talk about like knowing your teammates or knowing your league mates and knowing like their tendencies and what they do, this is one of those instances where you find the Jalen Hurts person. Like if I was in a league with Victoria, who I know loves Jalen Hurts in fantasy, that's who I'm targeting to trade to. Whatever they have on their team that you can make yours and feel good about that, you like, and we're going to talk about it again in just a minute. I already saw ahead on the show sheet, but like there are people in these leagues that feel that confidently about a player, find that person and trade with them for whatever, reward you can reap.
And I think especially with a guy like Jalen Hurts, I think you know who that person or those people are in your league. Right? That's not like you don't have to do high level research to figure that out. Like if I
Yeah,
had
no, they're loud.
I know great friend of the show, Jerry O'Shea, big ups to Ireland. He would probably actually give me cash money to get Jalen Hurts onto his team. So I know if I had any shares of him, Jerry and I are in a few leagues together. I would have hit up Jerry last year. So he wouldn't be on my team anymore, but he would be the guy. So yeah, I think we all know who those people or that person is, and you can definitely find them. I want to hit this one in the chat. Drew kind of gave a little bit of an answer, but I want to dive a little deeper into this. So this is from our boy Kyle Senra. He gave up Kyle Ridley. Curious to see thoughts on the return in the trade. 12 team, 2 quarterback, 1.75 tight end premium, start 13. He got Gabe Davis and Russell Gage. I'll start this one. Congratulations. I think, especially start 13, you're probably starting both of those dudes. I don't know what the rest of your team is, but it's probably a solid shot that you're going to be starting those guys in a lot of weeks. Calvin Ridley, I'm like, if I again any shares of them, I would have sold for a bag of chips, and not even like Cool Ranch Doritos, not even good chips, like the bootleg ones that just are the blue bag with a little triangle on the front. Like that's it. because we're talking about Calvin Ridley. What, it's going to be a year and a half that he hasn't been on the field, and then he's probably going to a new team. Atlanta's probably going to, just trade him for whatever they can get. So he's going to be 29, 30 on a new team, trying to learn a new offense. That's a lot. I just give me whatever you want to give me. We'll call it a day and we'll move on. What do you think, Linda?
This hurts because I was a very big Calvin Ridley fan for the last 2 years. Have a ton of Calvin Ridley, and I'm not a very big Gabe Davis stan, but the way the offense has fallen so far for the Bills, I think Gabe Davis has retained any value he closed the season with. I mean, people I think are still a little high on him, but they're talking about Cole Beasley walking. They haven't signed anybody that's super concerning, like new to the offense. And for like that's a win for Gabe Davis, regardless of how I feel about him as a fantasy asset. And you're getting it for a guy that's not playing. So Russell Gage, I think, is going to be kind of meh for the Bucks because they have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But if Chris Godwin can't start the season, maybe you get some early production out of Russell Gage, and that's good. So regardless, you're getting production from and getting rid of a player that's giving you zero.
I will say that Tom Brady did personally reach out to Russell Gage and recruit him. So maybe there's a little special, Russell Gage package there that we get where he gets a. But you say Russell Gage is whatever, Gabe Davis is whatever. But at this point, like Calvin Ridley, to me at least, doesn't really have much value. So do what you do, and good job, Kyle. I mean, honestly, you got two guys that in a start 13 are probably going to start for you a lot of weeks. So it's better than one guy that will definitely not start for you in any week in 2022. So
Yeah.
good on you. All right, this next one here, and this is a very interesting kind of philosophical question from Jake Estes at Dynasty_Jake. I love Jake in a group chat with him, and he's a very smart dude. Trade offer is pending, and big news breaks that swings heavily to favor one side. Maybe Tom Brady coming back or something like that. Maybe one owner that knowing that the news is drastically in his favor. Are you okay with this? So pretty much he says, yeah, you're cool with it, whatever it takes to win, or no, you should probably be a better human being and not do that. Linda, why don't you start us off on this one? Is it play to win, or is it, let's try to be a good human being sometimes?
Look, I am the worst winner and worst loser. I don't take jokes well when I lose, and I talk a ton of shit when I win. But I think integrity has to go into it. If you send a deal within 2 minutes, or like if you've let a trade sit for 2 days and then a trade happens and you accept it, and people are like, don't let trades sit. But goddamn, we all work jobs or have children or, we're all doing. I'm not staring at my sleeper app 24/7. I have other things going on. Sometimes I don't get to it that quickly. And sure, you can pull it off or whatever, but I'll send a drunk trade and forget I've sent it. If you I think there has to be a line, and here's the thing, like in a legality sense, in like bylaws and stuff, if nothing's against it, there's nothing wrong with it. You can't be mad it's happened to you. It happened. But you're definitely canceling out any potential trades with that person. You have completely fucked that business relationship. And business relationships, like that's part of Dynasty. Now, if that person talks to other people are going to be apprehensive to trade with you. So I think it sets you up for further complications instead of just like having a smidgen of integrity and being like, hey, are you still okay? Especially because most of the trades that happen in Dynasty are discussed prior. You have entire conversations about it. Yes, I agree. Go ahead and send it. And then if something is to happen and you don't go like, hey, are you still okay with this? I think you're fucked. Legally, fine. But I think you're a bad person. And that just comes down to now I'm not going to trade with you anymore because you did me dirty. So never mind. And if that's the position you want to be in, go for it. But it's not a winning stance in a dynasty league, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was gonna let Drew go first, but I want to jump in here because Linda, you said something interesting. The the legality of it. So I only one league because that's all I got the energy for. And in my bylaws, it says if a trade's accepted and you hit me up within 10 minutes of the trade being accepted, and you go, hey, look, this trade was out here, it was Tom Brady for like a fifth. And now obviously all of a sudden, Tom Brady comes back and the dude, you know, I'll reverse it. I'll talk to the other guy first, the other girl first, and I'll reverse it. But if it's like a day later, 2 days later, oh, hey, look, I think it's wrong. I don't think you should do it. Like you said, integrity, but you are ruining a trade partner in that league. And if it's a 12-teamer, you only got 11 other trade partners. So if you take one away, now you only got 10 partners. And sometimes, like we said earlier, you know, that one guy might be the biggest Jalen Hurts guy in the world. And he's probably not gonna trade with you now because he's got an axe to grind because of what you did. I am the prince of petty. So if somebody does that to me, I don't even complain about it. I go, all right, that's on me. But the next time you come to me, I don't care. Don't talk to me. We ain't talking. We're not negotiating anything. Just stay out of my. It actually, I had a trade last year. The guy offered it to me, and this was like right around fantasy playoffs, and it was Nick Chubb for a single 23 first. Now I was a contender and I was like, okay, like my team has been good, has stayed good this entire time. I had won this league the previous year. I was trying to go back to back. And I was actually asking people because I was like, did Nick Chubb do something? Did he get in trouble? Did he get hurt? Is there something like I'm not because it seemed way too in my favor. I was on Google. I was like, Nick Chubb. It was just like, Nick Chubb has a great practice today. I'm like, all right, but what did he do? Because this is a league of very smart people, and I can't believe someone's just offering up Nick Chubb for a first. So finally, after like hours of talking to people and trying to figure this out, everyone's like, dude, I haven't heard anything about Nick Chubb. I should have went to Linda Lyons Insider, but I didn't at that time. I said, okay, like I'm gonna hit accept. Now that trade offer was probably out for 2 or 3 hours. 5 minutes after I hit accept, guy goes, I didn't mean to add Nick Chubb. I meant to add somebody else. And I was like, hold up. He went into the league chat, said the same thing. I said, fine, I'll send you Nick Chubb back. But it was like this was out here for hours. You made the offer to me. So it's not even like I was sitting there like, Nick Chubb hurt. Like you made the offer to me. So now all of a sudden, and I forgot who, it was James Conner. That's who he said he meant to add, James Conner for a first. It's funny because he tried to make me that offer a bunch of times before, and I was like, under no circumstance, James Conner can have 10 touchdowns a game. Under no circumstance, giving you a for him. I love the guy. I love his story, but as a fantasy asset, you're not getting a 23 first at me. So I don't know why all of a sudden he was like, I meant to add James Conner. You knew I was going to accept that anyway. I've never accepted the last 5 times you offered it to me. What do you think? 6 times was a charm. But anyway, like I said, I'm petty, and this is the shit I do.
I will straight up write down a trade in pin to make sure that I am reading it correctly. And I am so, you ever like hit decline and you're like, God, what if I just sneeze and hit
Yeah,
accept?
yeah.
It's terrifying.
Always look twice.
I have to
Always
like
look
really
twice.
focus.
But my thing is, as soon as I send the trade, it shows you what the trade is. I like examine the trade again because I'm like, my stupid behind will add like an extra first or like DeAndre Hopkins, and like really all I want back is like, Brandon Ayuk. I'm like, oh, whoa, 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 what did I do here? Like, and I will immediately decline if I mess it up. So you make the offer, you send the offer, you get the little screen that says, hey, this is what the offer is. Good luck. And then you go, I'm good. You let it sit for hours. And then 5 minutes after it's accepted, oh man, that wasn't the trade I wanted. Like, you had like multiple opportunities to go, I made a mistake here. I'm going to decline, you know, I'm going to take this back. I'm not going to do this. But like I said, I'm petty. And now you see why. All right, Drew, back to the original here. What are you doing here? If news breaks that heavily favors one side, are you hitting that accept automatically, or are you just going, hey man, I'd rather play with some pride here?
Yeah, just be good people. Send a message. Everybody's got some sort of app they're using, whether it's in the Sleeper app or whether it's in GroupMe or Slack or whatever at this point, Discord. So just shoot a message and see. I mean, it's not that, again, what are we really playing for? I guess most of us anyways, what are we really playing for? We, like Linda said earlier, we got full-time jobs still. You know, this is not a FFPC 6-figure winnings that I've got on the line here. If that's what's on the line, I know everybody's got their price, but in general, in the leagues that I'm in, you know, it's for the fun of it. It's, you know, we've talked about it before. A lot of the decision-making process now for leagues is less about the bylaws and the rules and the scoring. It's who's in the league. So if I want to be in that community, let's keep it above board here.
I love it. So I think we all agree here. I know I did kind of put a comment on there like, hey, listen, you know, if the person is like really sleeping, like if the news breaks and you still leave it just hanging out there for 2 or 3 days to reject it, like I can kind of see maybe you saying, all right, like it's been a good period of time, but like you never know like what somebody else is doing either, you know, like, you know, uh person, you know, might have, you know, got sick or they, you know, whatever. And that's the reason why I hung out even days after the news broke. So yeah, I mean, and kind of the crazy thing is that the poll was pretty close. It was 4% for no, that's wrong, and 46% for yeah, it's fine. And I mean, I guess maybe saying yeah, it's fine just is saying like yeah, like you can do it, you know, it's but I think most of those people, because I also read the comments and people were like, if you're not paying attention, you know, it's on you, it's your fault, and it's like kind of like we all got lives, like we're doing things, like we're not just like, you know, if my job was to play fantasy football, then yeah, like I'm gonna be at my screen all the time. I would have known that Raheem Mostert went to Miami, you know, but we got things going on. We got so yeah, I don't think any of us think it's the right thing to do. There's a lot of other ways to go about it. So this next one here is from Jacob Sanderson RTDB at FF_RTDB. Can everyone put down their heaping pile of straw and check an ADP source? Amon-Ra St. Brown is the wide receiver 23 on Underdog, wide receiver 25 on KTC, Keep Trade Cut, and wide receiver 27 on DLF. If you only think he's a wide receiver 2, he probably undervalued. Now, I will mention that the DLF rank was February Superflex. So after the DJ Chark news, and don't shoot me, I'm not saying anything about it. It's probably going to change. That's all I'm saying. It's probably going to change. So Amon-Ra St. Brown. Linda, how do you feel about Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Well, they can shoot me because I have opinions. Let me tell you. Here's the thing. What he did last season was fantastic. That was great. It was very much fun. I enjoyed it. The overall discussion about him, he has to be a severe outlier to produce at a high fantasy level for several years where he was drafted. He is on a team that is rebuilding. They've signed DJ Chark to 1 year. they almost assuredly draft a wide receiver in the 30s of the NFL draft this in a couple weeks. I can't get behind a guy that might be the third, fourth target on his team. I think TJ Hawkinson will be the clear number one in that passing tree. I think Swift is a very potent part of that offense. And then people are like, but Jared Goff sucks. Okay, so why do you like Amon-Ra St. Brown? What do we do? Every conversation you have with him, and I get it. It was very fun last season. He won some people some leagues. It was great. I don't see him getting 8+ targets a game. That's where I stand. And as far as he's probably a wide receiver too. The most recent dynasty startup I did, he went wide receiver 15. Eat shit. Absolutely not. I can't get behind wide receiver 15. I think he is a wide receiver 3 or a flex option. I have 0 shares. Clearly the fantasy, I think, boy, I'm getting heated. The fantasy community often feels one way about a player, and the NFL community feels a very different way. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is a clear indication of that. The fantasy community loved him. He has a fun nickname, Sun God. Who doesn't love that? We all bought into him. And then he didn't get drafted till the 4th, 5th round. What was it? Late.
Round, yeah.
I just think we all bought into it very early before the draft happened. And then he was drafted very late on a team that is clearly in the middle of a rebuild. So even if he's productive this following year, even if he's productive in 2022, I don't think his long range production and dynasty analysts, they'll tell you, they're like, well, we look in 3 to 5 years because God forbid we look at the very next year. So redraft, he may be an option depending on who they draft, because again, I think they definitely take a wide receiver, but he's not a guy that I'm excited about in dynasty terms when you're talking about 3 years out from now. I have a lot of opinions.
All right, Drew. Let us know how you feel about Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I'm not taking him at wide receiver 15, but I do think he has a very good chance of landing in wide receiver 2 territory. I think there's at least a 50-50 chance he could crack the top 20.
Okay, so you're saying a coin flip that he can crack the top 20. By the way, I'm 100% on the Linda side here. I don't get it. I don't understand. We look at the 5 or 6 games of production and we go, that's what Amon-Ra St. Brown is. But then we fail to look at the first 10 games of production and go, well, maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown is this. Or maybe he falls somewhere in the middle between the first 10 games and the last 6 games. We just have automatically assumed look what he did. This is what he is. And I'm sorry. You could say whatever you want about Jared Goff. I really don't care what anybody's opinion on Jared Goff is. Mine personally is he's a fine NFL quarterback. He's okay. You could do better. You could do worse than Jared Goff. But you were telling me that TJ Hawkinson being gone, DeAndre Swift being gone, everybody with a pulse pretty much being gone, didn't have something to do with Amon-Ra St. Brown's production. And I hear the thing, well, Jared Goff trusted him. Who else was he going to trust? I was running routes for the Detroit Lions last year. He wasn't going to trust me. Am I slow behind? He had one option. That option was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, can he improve on the first 10 games? Absolutely. But there's been talks about them going after Allen Robinson. May happen, may not happen. But what if it does? And I'm with Linda 100%. whether it's at 32 or I believe 34 is their first pick in the second round, they're taking they're taking a wide receiver at one of those spots. So if now you're telling me the new look Detroit Lions offense is Allen Robinson, late first, early second wide receiver, DJ Chark, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is not only going to be the leader of that pack, because he almost has to be not only the leader, but far and away the leader of that pack to be a dynasty wide receiver too. I'm not buying that. And listen, if I'm wrong, everybody can come at me with this. And, just like I was wrong about Trey Sermon, just people came at me about that and I was cool with it. Like, listen, you do what you do. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't care if you're talking about, wide receiver 15. Or you couldn't pay me real money, and in this economy, money is king. You couldn't pay me real money to take Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver 15. But Drew, you said coin flip at wide receiver 20. This sounds like a bet that needs to be made. It sounds like we need to put some cash money on your love of Amon St. Brown.
There's a difference between love and respect. If I loved him, I would have taken him in the top 12 or 15.
Okay.
There's respect for the work that he put in and the results that he produced.
Yeah,
and I think he can do
them
similarly
first
this year.
10 games, respect. So this should be an easy one for you then. Top 20. What do you say?
Linda, pick a charity.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, the women's sports organization.
Done.
Okay.
So our normal $5 Amon-Ra St. Brown, top 20. That's the easiest $5 that this charity has ever made, and they get donations. So I mean, it's easy. But I mean, now that I have an entire charity on my side, knowing the real truth about Amon-Ra St. Brown. But there it is. So top 20. So
total points on the year or points per game? Doesn't matter to me.
You pick, since you're gonna lose this one. I'll let you choose how you lose.
Just do total points, because points on the
I
year
got
make
pressure on total points, Linda.
You got to look at like
me
games
tell you.
played and shit by that point. Just do total points.
Total points. Our insider has spoken. So
It is decided.
Drew lost a little bit of money last
I wrote
year
it down.
betting on Juju, and it wasn't completely his fault. Obviously, Juju got injured, but yeah, Drew. So I hope you got all your thoughts and prayers out there against all of the Lions receivers, except for obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown. So yeah, we got a question here from great friend of the show, Steve Dennis. He's saying, what's one free agent signing of those still out there that you would love to see? Listen, this is a selfish one because it has been a very hard off season for my Dallas Cowboys. But let's get Allen Robinson to the Cowboys. Let's get a team-friendly deal. It doesn't seem like people are knocking on the door right now. We traded away Amari Cooper for a box of Oreos. So Randy Gregory he agreed to terms, and then he did not agree to terms, even though that sounds like that was more Dallas's fault than Randy Gregory's fault. But and he went to Denver. So yeah, I know Linda's happy about that. Linda and I we usually live on the same end of the spectrum. This is one of those things we are living on totally different ends of the spectrum here. Russ, Randy Gregory, they're just like doing big things. I've even heard rumors that the Broncos are trying to trade for Dallas Cowboy La'el Collins to help bolster that line in front of Russ. And then the Dallas Cowboys have just they've made some good small signings, but the big things they have messed up, and they have messed up pretty dang well. So, yeah, just to make me feel a little bit better, get a guy that I love, Allen Robinson. Pray that it wasn't just a steep decline, and it was just Matt Nagy not knowing how to head coach football games. And Allen Robinson is still pretty damn good. We get him on a friendly deal. Looks like no one's paying out that big money to get him, and then we roll. Maybe we even pick up Julio too as a wide receiver 3 in the offense. But uh, what's yours, Drew? What would be that free agent signing that you would love to see?
From one Chicago Bear to another, while we're handing out millions of dollars to old defensive players, I'd love to see Akeem Hicks come to the Bills.
Greedy.
I would love to. Hey, maybe he would have, maybe he would have made a difference in those 13 seconds.
That's what Von Miller's for. But I do
I need
respect,
security.
I do respect what the Bills did there. I know a lot of people were looking at that guaranteed money and thought it was a little crazy, but when you're that close, and honestly, I think if they win that game, I think they win the whole damn thing. You're gonna pay a little extra for that, like Drew said, security. All right, Linda, what's your free agent signing that you would love to see?
Man, I think you're being a little optimistic about the wide receivers that your Dallas Cowboys might be able to get under contract. So I'm going to offer a player that is maybe not going to cost as much in James Washington, who I think was severely underused and underutilized, and every other bad connotation word you can throw on a wide receiver in Pittsburgh. I want to see him land somewhere that they can actually use him as a team's wide receiver too. I think he has a super valuable skill set. Obviously, I'm a bit of a homer because I watched him play in Stillwater for so many years, but I know what James Washington brings to the table. Hell, we saw him do it just last year with Ben Roethlisberger when Ben was chunking God knows what up into the air. James Washington was coming down with it and barely seeing the field. So imagine what he can do with a quarterback that's actually worth a damn. And I believe Dak Prescott is. They have lost Amari Cooper. You're talking about like Sammy Fayeko being the is that his name? I may have fucked that
Simi
up.
Fioco, yeah.
Simi, I gave it an A. God damn it.
Yeah,
But regardless, I think a guy that's maybe a little bit more cheap, but still brings a valuable skill set might be a better option than signing one of the big free agent names for Dallas.
Yeah, it's an interesting name, and obviously, if Linda's mentioning it, she's already heard from sources. So don't be shocked when the Cowboys do sign James Washington, a dude that I loved coming out of OK State that never really put it together in Pittsburgh, and I think that was actually more of an institutional thing than it was a James Washington thing, because they also drafted Mason Rudolph in that draft, and they thought that they had, the OK State connection, and that was gonna be life after Ben, and then Ben lasted like 17 more seasons, even with the noodle arm, and James Washington never really kind of leveled up while he was there. I don't know if I'd want him in Dallas, but I mean, I'm hoping that Allen Robinson is coming on the cheap, because a lot of these wide receivers are coming off the board, and Allen Robinson ain't one of them. I mean, hey, DJ Chark just got $10, $11 million. So, I'm hoping that as the days go on, those prices get cheaper, and maybe we get, a little 1 year Allen Robinson. We rehab him so that he can go out and get that big money that he deserves.
Do that OBJ deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be that. I would love it to be that deal, but I don't think it's going to be quite that crazy. But I mean, even if Allen Robinson comes over for 1 year, 10 million, I mean, let's go. Apparently now, we were all worried about this cap thing, and now, we trade Amari Cooper. We don't re-sign Randy Gregory. We should be flush with cap room now that all these guys have been traded and U-turning themselves and everything. So, and I mean, there have been a couple of small deals, but nothing big. So I'm hoping that maybe Allen Robinson gets to that, like $10 million range, and we go, come on down. We need help. We could use you. Even though I guess Michael Gallup ate up some of that money. Bless him. But all right. So what we like to do at the end of every episode, we like to grab one tweet from our guest and put it out there. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's just funny. This, in my opinion, is a good one. So this is from Linda at Lindellians at Fantasy Timeline Insider. The worst place an exciting free agent wide receiver could land for fantasy football is the Kansas City Chiefs. Since Tyreek Hill was drafted and paired with Travis Kelce, here is how the Chiefs wide receiver 2 has finished. 2016, wide receiver 73. 2017, wide receiver 59. 2018, wide receiver 64. 2019, wide receiver 50. 2020, wide receiver 61. And then 2021, they really leveled up at that wide receiver 2 spot with a wide receiver 48. Again, me and math, we don't always get along, but that doesn't sound good. None of those numbers sound good. So I think it's interesting because I talked about, Allen Robinson going to, possibly the Cowboys, but obviously, as guys like Allen Robinson and Juju Smith-Schuster sit longer, you're going to kind of hear them getting mentioned by the Chiefs and other very talented teams that are maybe looking for a good player on a cheap contract. And Linda's telling you, don't fall for it. Because let's face it, if Allen Robinson goes there, if Juju goes there, we're going to hype those guys. Oh, man, it's Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek Hill is going to take away the defense because he can go long on every play. And then what do you do about Travis Kelce? You're not going to worry about Juju or Allen Robinson. But we've seen this. And I know the argument can be made, well, it's only been Mecole Hardman. But let's face it, these dudes aren't putting up the stats that we keep saying that they're going to put up because all of these guys are out there taking away. They don't do it. So Andy Reid concentrates his offense. It's Tyreek Hill. It's Travis Kelce. Every once in a while you'll get a big game from a Mecole or Byron Pringle, but you can't predict those. They're going to come because this is what happens every year. DeMarcus Robinson, he has a huge game, and then we all run to the waiver wire and spend, 20% of fab on him. And that was the game. That was it. The rest of the season, he has like 7 catches for like 48 yards. And we go, but that one time he had like 7 catches for 120 and a touchdown. How come we didn't get that back? So I totally agree with you. And even with Sammy Watkins, like Sammy Watkins was part of that breakdown there. Like they paid him a ton of money. They paid him like $15-16 million a year. And that dude, week 1, you start him week 1. That dude's going off every week 1. It don't matter where. And then weeks 2 through 16, Sammy Watkins went on vacation. Him and the lizard people went on vacation. So I'm with you 100%. What do you think about this one, Drew? You like it, or you think that someone else is going to come in there and change the narrative?
It's hard to argue with the numbers, as they say. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's saying, just like with Tom Brady, right? Everybody's trying to predict, when is Travis Kelce going to fall off here? When is he not going to be, the major factor that he has been for so many years? I don't think it's this year. I don't think he's just going to drop off a cliff. So yeah, good luck predicting when, you get a wide receiver 2 that's going to step in and actually make a difference. Like you said, at a predictable pace. So yeah, I hope it's not Juju, because I've got Juju in a lot of rosters, and I'm hoping that he gets somewhere decent where, I don't need him to be pushing for wide receiver 1 again. I just need him to be a solid wide receiver 2 and feel good about holding him and trading for him in a few places. So Allen Robinson, you have fun going and winning a ring with Mahomes the next 2 or 3 years. James Washington, Juju, you all get out of Pittsburgh and find your respective homes, do your thing, find me some points.
There it is. I mean, Linda is just saying here, she's not just an insider, people. She's out here breaking down stats, telling you what you really need to know. And, I'm here for it because she does this with wide receivers, man. You should see her kicker game. That's her forte, her bread and butter. She'll she'll break down any kicker stat you want and tell you why you're right or wrong about it. So uh this was a good one, Linda. I like this one. Usually, uh, when I see you on Twitter, a lot of your stuff is funny. A lot of your stuff makes me laugh. We talked about, you know, not even trying out for the Falcons because at this point they need all damn help they can get. Signing contracts with the Falcons, but you do this as well. Not only are you an awesome Twitter follow and awesome just to read a lot of the funny things you put out there, but you come with a lot of hard hitting facts and a lot of deep stuff that I bet you a lot of people. I bet you maybe like 5 people knew that stat before you put it out.
Dude, I got my shit kicked in for that fucking post. People did not like that take from me. But when you like, and people are like, well, what about before Tyreek Hill? And what about when this happened? And what about Andy Reid's been a head coach since 2000 for the Eagles and for the Chiefs. His best wide receiver 2 in targets has finished wide receiver 21 in fantasy football. In 21 years, his best wide receiver 2 is at 21.
Is that Jeremy Maclin back in the day?
No, because this was, I don't think so. It was 2010 for the Eagles. Jeremy Maclin was, because that was the other thing. Everybody argued with me. Well, maybe they're just not good wide receivers. Well, Jeremy Maclin was a wide receiver 1 for Andy Reid 1 year in Kansas City. The next year they drafted Tyreek Hill and he fell to like wide receiver 75 or some shit. And everybody was like, well, I would argue Jeremy Maclin's not good. Well, he was good enough when he was getting funneled with targets because of Andy Reid, wasn't he? And when it wasn't Travis Kelce, it was Jamal Charles and so on and so forth. However you cut it, if they bring somebody in that takes targets from somebody, they're likely going to take targets from somebody like Travis Kelce. However you cut that pie, it is not good for fantasy if they add an exciting wide receiver. And that's somebody, I think the 2 that we can agree on are Allen Robinson and Juju Smith-Schuster. It's just not somewhere I want to see a guy land, except for the fact that I think that you can get some value in return because the narrative is going to be Patrick Mahomes and the high-powered offense, and this is what they do. And you're like, except for it's not what they do. It's never what he's done in 21 years.
And it's funny because people are like, no, but we did this with Sammy Watkins. We were like, oh, Sammy Watkins is not. He got out of Buffalo. They suck. Drew, they did suck at that time. I'm not trying to badmouth your team. Now he's with a real head coach at Andy Reid and a real quarterback. Because at that time it was, I think the first season or 2 was Alex Smith, who had been going to the playoffs and had been winning games in the playoffs. Oh, and Tyreek Hill's on the other side, and Travis Kelce is going to gobble up everything over the middle. Yeah, dude, who's going to stop Sammy Watkins? And now I'm sure those same people will be like, Sammy Watkins is trash. Yeah, but you weren't saying that when he got signed. We can't do that revisionist history. Because I know I said that. I was like, man, Sammy Watkins could be a thing, man. It's how do you study? How do you even think about committing defense to Sammy Watkins when you have to stop Tyreek Hill and you have to stop Travis Kelce and you have to stop, I don't even remember who the running back was at that time, but you got to stop that guy too. It's just, we did the same.
Yeah.
I mean, we did the same thing with CEH. I mean, a different position, but
yeah, well, that's what, and like a ton of people were like, maybe they just weren't good. And I'm like, show me where you drafted McCole Hardman last year. Show me where you drafted him, because I guarantee you is higher than I would have ever touched. Even in best ball, I'll just take Byron Pringle. The 2 are going to have up games and just, ceiling games. You take those, but one is far cheaper. It's just not, you're never going to confidently start the Chiefs wide receiver 2. That's my take.
And even after you draft him, Mecole Hardman is like a perpetual second round rookie pick. At any time, you can trade Mecole Hardman for like a second round rookie pick because people were like, all right, he's finally figured it out. He's going to blow up. He's got the Tyreek Hill speed, blah, 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 blah. We talk these guys up because they're in the Chiefs offense. And then it's just, that's what it is. So on that note, Linda, thank you very much for coming on. I love having you on. I love that we have been able to hire you as our insider, just breaking news. I can't wait to see James Washington signing with the Cowboys. You heard it here first. And Lord knows if that actually does happen, I am promoting the shit out of that. I'm promoting the shit out of this episode. I'm gonna be like, we have insiders for a reason. But it's always fun. We get to cut it up. We get to have a good time. We get to agree on a lot of players, and unfortunately for Drew, we're right a lot more than we're wrong. I'm just on that out there. But a good charity is going to get Drew's money, so I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. So before we get out of here, please tell everybody where they can find you, what you're doing, and what you're up to.
Well, you can find all of my writing on Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life newsletter. It's coming out right now on Mondays and Thursdays, and then in season it comes out every day of the week. And that's where all my like kicker tiers and content is for leagues that have kickers. And then if by chance you're listening to this and you're an Oklahoma State fan and or a Big 12 fan, I host Locked On Pokes for the Locked On Sports Podcast Network, and I have a pretty good time doing that. 5 days a week, all Oklahoma State, all Big 12. So that's where you can find me. But most of my nonsense, as you well know, is on Twitter at Lindellians.
Yeah, and if somehow, I don't even know how this would be a possibility, but if you're listening to this and you're not following Linda at Lindellians, and trust me, multiple tweets have gone out with the handle. Another tweet will go out promoting this show once we post it with her handle in it. Follow her. You've made a giant mistake by not doing it to this point, but it can be forgiven. I just hitting follow. It's a great follow. If for nothing else, then to see somebody having a good time on Twitter, not taking the Twitter shit too seriously, and then dropping knowledge like, hey, Chiefs wide receiver 2, don't do that. Just don't do that. If you have Mecole Hardman right now, trade him for a second. You'll be happier for it. But thank you to Linda, and thank you to everybody in the chat. Chat was going off. Steve Dennis was out here asking questions. Kyle was asking questions. People were in and out. If you were watching us live, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. The great thing about the DAP network is it's not just us. The junkies are on here, Dynasty junkies are on here. We got the Trade Addicts pod. Sometimes they just do it live for whatever reason. So do that. If you're listening to us on podcast, we appreciate you guys too, because we're at 1 hour and 23 minutes. You could literally be doing anything else, and you've decided to listen to my nonsense and then Linda and Drew just spitting hot facts. So appreciate that. Remember, if you somehow stumbled on this, make sure you hit subscribe, then leave the rate and review, because for algorithms and stuff, apparently that's a good thing. It helps us be seen by more people, which we want to have happen because we want to have you guys listen to our great guests like Lindellians. We had M. Lefko on last week, which was a great episode. And honestly, the people that come on here are way better at this fantasy football thing than I am. So you should listen to them. So on that note, Drew, we're out of here.
Late.